3, 2, 1. SCHNITTLABOR International Review.
Today we are going to the graveyard. It is the special and very famous Cementerio General de Sucre. If you don't mind, I will explain a little bit what this video is all about, but if you do mind, then you can just skip the wording by clicking on the warp link directly in the description below this video. This graveyard, the Cementerio General de Sucre, is the perfect place for street photography in black and white. Wikipedia describes it like this: ornate mausoleums, tombs and gardens with magnificent old trees populate the space that is home to the graves of important people in the arts, sciences, and the history both of Bolivia and of Latin America. So you would really like to take your 50mm or your 35mm prime lens and just go there to go out and shoot this place. I got inspired by one of Kai's recent videos, a plea for a 40mm lens for street photography. Not too wide and not too narrow. If you still didn't see this video, then just check out the link in the top right corner now. If you're following my channel, then you may remember that I sold my Alpha 7R Mark II camera, it's a full frame sensor camera, to be able to travel here to South America and show you some of this part of the world. No full frame and no prime lenses anymore, but still I have this universal RX10 Mark IV which I like so much, as you can see in the playlist highlighted at the top right of your video frame now. One thing which I forgot to mention in the pros and cons video of the RX10 Mark IV, which you will also find in this playlist there, this camera has this interesting zoom frame assist function which enables you to kind of sneak preview different frame sizes, that is different focal length, and then the zoom will instantly snap to the specific frame size that you were pre-selecting. But this function isn't, according to my understanding, specific enough. If there were any possibility to place into the FN or function menu an option to access directly specific standard focal length, so the focal lengths are to be understood in relation to the 1-inch sensor. But in the end, such mathematics behind the scenes do not really matter. And it could even be integrated into a software update for the RX10 Mark III still. But exactly in this step mode, for example, 40mm isn't available between 35 and 50mm as a standard focal length. Such an access to predefine your own desired focal length could be so handy and convenient. Imagine you switch your camera on and it automatically drives to exactly your desired focal length, because in this specific day it's your 40mm prime lens day. It could change your whole perception of the RX10 Mark IV camera as being equal to a prime lens camera with prime lenses attached to it. Instead, what we have to do now is kind of zoom back and forth by trial and error to reach 40mm, so that in the end we can precisely select that certain standard focal length. And if we are not using the switched on camera for a certain time, let's say maximum 30 minutes, then it will go into a standby mode. And when reactivated, it will already forget the former focal length, so then the whole process starts again. One last thing that doesn't make sense to me I want to mention: while selecting the different focal length when you prepare for shooting an object, the focal length is shown in relation to a full frame sensor. 12mm on this 1-inch sensor are displayed as 35mm equivalent on your camera's computer screen. We are going to shoot photos at 3 different focal lengths. Not like in Kai's video at 35, 40 and 50mm focal length. We start with the mysterious 40mm, then we will shoot wide angle at 24mm, whereas we will shoot at 85mm equivalent in the end. One last thing to mention before we go out into the graveyard: please follow the SCHNITTLABOR channel. YouTube has cancelled our tiny income through advertising because our channel still has a little bit under 1000 followers. You know, this is a bilingual channel in English and German, completely authentic and individualistic. And all this costs a damn lot of time and work for us to produce interesting content for you. Thank you. So now here we are already with a 40mm shot in 4K. We have the creative style clear effect applied to this image, but now in a second when we come to the photographs, as promised already, we will do the black and white effect, which can be applied on raw photography as well as on video images. There is also a video explaining these different creative style effects, which you can find up here in the corner. When it comes to the photographs and this kind of try for you to get an impression of this kind of 40mm equivalent focal length, then also of course we will now switch back to the classical 3x2 format instead of 16:9, as you can see here in video mode. So just enjoy. We start with 40mm. So now we were zooming down and out to 24mm focal length equivalent. And as you can see already, there's much more space in the image, also in the background much more elements. So this is a strong wide angle comparing to the 40mm which we used before. Again, this is video 16:9, and now in a second we come to black and white with 3x2 proportions. And now we have already arrived at 85mm focal length equivalent with this 1-inch sensor. This is already so close to the motive that most probably the length of my arm is not enough anymore to give you any idea of what's in the background. But still, we're going to switch into the photo mode again, and then you have this 3x2 impressions of this 85mm focal length. Just enjoy. Okay, so now, because it has been so beautiful and also hopefully very understandable, we will now towards the end be using 3 different examples of an image that is directly being photographed with 24mm, 40mm and 85mm equivalent. so that you have a direct comparison. But before we go out, just please maybe one more reminder to follow our channel, because we really do need at least 1000 followers so that we can generate this little income through advertising according to the new YouTube rules. Thank you very much, see you soon, and bye bye.